Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Action Network. I am Chad Millman, Chief Content Officer of the Action Network. Finally made it. Welcome to Draft Week. We have been prepping and talking and game planning and betting and thinking and analyzing NFL draft markets for months. And now we're into the final days, new betting markets emerging, player stocks rising and falling, like alphabet stock. General managers are reaching for the Tums. As always, I am joined by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Yeah, Chad, I try to enjoy this last week. Really, it feels like the last week of real craziness until about August. So this is, as a football fan, this is pretty fun from the gambling perspective.
Listen, don't get everyone to stop listening as soon as the draft is over. Don't forget, as soon as the draft is over, we are talking about win totals. We're doing projections. We have so much still to come, including on today's show, Simon. A very special NFL guest on today's show because the NFL draft, as I did say, is this week. We got Davey O'Brien and Manning Award winner, AP College Football Player of the Year, Texas A&M Hall of Famer, the first freshman to win the Heisman Trophy, 2014 NFL first-round draft pick. He has been doing franchise mode videos analyzing the 6 quarterbacks who are projected to go early in the draft. Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Dude, listen, the franchise mode has been killing it. It's been fantastic. I want to dig into it. I'm going to get your take on all this. First, as a reminder, folks, Favorites podcast is presented by North Carolina's newest sportsbook, Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. They don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Reminder, catch every episode of The Favorites live on YouTube. For those enjoying on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. All right, Johnny. I mentioned franchise mode. You've been breaking down the quarterback class for the NFL draft. It's on the Action Network YouTube page. You can get it on our TikTok, you can get it on Instagram, get it on your socials. The very first question I get, and I know why we did this, Johnny Manziel analyzing NFL draft quarterbacks. Why?
I think for me, analyzing this draft of quarterbacks, drafting or just like looking at quarterbacks in general, for me, as I watch football today in today's day and age, I watch it very much as the way that I was taught, which is, through these NFL coaches' eyes, through the eyes of Kyle Shanahan, through the eyes of Cliff Kingsbury. And for me, I look at football in a very detailed way because of how I was taught. And that's something that, contradicts, I think, a lot of what people think about me. And for me, I enjoy the game. I enjoy watching a group of young quarterbacks go on to try and have success in the NFL. And these guys in general, I believe, are very, very good. So me being back involved with the game, being around, getting a chance, luckily from you guys, to be able to have the opportunity to do that is something that's, extremely special for me.
How do you watch it? When you say you're watching it now, what are you looking at to break down these guys, to analyze these guys?
I think from a very obvious perspective, you're looking for things that jump off the page. You're looking for plays from guys that, as a former player, you're looking at and you go, wow. There's a lot of guys in this class, especially that make you go, wow. So I think, from 1 through 6, there's a great list of guys in this class who can sit there as you're watching college football on a Saturday for the past 2 or 3 years and see these guys make plays that make you say, wow.
All right. Simon, I know you want to dig on you want to dig in on some of these guys, but I got to say, you had a take on Michael Penix Jr. when we recorded these a month ago and launched franchise mode the following week. That was essentially saying he was the second best quarterback in the draft. At the time, he was a mid day 2 prospect. Now, all of a sudden, we're 72 hours from the draft, and there's all this smoke about Penix going in the first round. Could it be to Seattle, where, his former offensive coordinator is now the coach? Could it be to the Falcons, who have hinted they might like him at 10? Before we get to Johnny, who is ahead of Penix, ahead of the curve on Penix, Simon, what have you been hearing?
About Penix himself?
Yeah.
Just a bunch of different stuff, but I think it's going to what I think Johnny's been talking about for the last month or so. But a lot of these teams I fell in love with him, it's just all the tools. So the big fear with him is just as a GM, it's the injury stuff, where when they're making these big decisions, especially when you're ranking these guys as like scouting, it's okay, what's the on the field stuff and then what's off the field stuff, and then you combine both of that to make a grade on them, right? It's not just skill set, talent wise, because I think a lot of guys, they look at Penix and he does make all the throws. Like, he is an incredible passer from the pocket. The question with him was the athleticism and then the injury and the health, right? So I think teams got more comfortable. They realized that he had a lot of bad luck with injuries, and he wasn't just great because of his incredible offensive line and his first round receivers. A lot of it was him. Like, he made his receivers better in a lot of ways. So I think it's interesting talking to people where he was looked at as a late second round, mid second round guy. And I think what really helped him, Chad, was his 40 time. Like, he ran a great 40. I think a lot of people were like, wow, this kid's actually kind of athletic. Because in college, once you got outside the pocket, he looked like a bad quarterback, right? He didn't look as well prepared. So yeah, definitely interested to hear Johnny's take on why he's ranked him at number 2 against, again, I'm a big Daniels fan. I just can't imagine having him above Daniels.
What's your take there, Johnny?
Yeah, I think he hit a nail on the head a lot with what, when you come into the pre-draft process and you really have questions that need to be answered, and you go through the whole process and then you answer those questions and then some. I think all he's done is help his draft stock. I think everything he said about as far as questions, getting outside the pocket, and in the position that he plays, you don't have to be a full-fledged runner in the NFL. But 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, to be able to get out and escape and make and keep drives going is a question for him, I would think, on the next level. And to go out and show some athleticism, show a 40 time, show consistency through the process of pre-draft, I think it puts him in a great position for what he wants to do. And I think that teams are seeing that in him. I think teams are seeing that, he's a great leader. He throws the ball as good as anybody in the draft class. And, all the things that I spoke positively about him, I continue to echo because I feel it's the truth. And I think somebody will be getting a great quarterback with him no matter where he goes. And he's deserving to go in the first round just based off who he is as a football player.
So, but if he's going to be better than somebody, then there has to be something about the other quarterbacks that you don't necessarily like, right? And so if you look at a Drake Maye, you look at a Jaden Daniels, you think about a Bo Nix, everyone has Caleb Williams there. Michael Penix as for you, number 2 overall pick, or no, second ranked quarterback, potential first rounder, which we're starting to hear a lot about. What is your criticism of the other quarterbacks that makes him better?
Yeah, I think for me, Jaden Daniels is still going to go second in the draft, second quarterback off the board. That's how I feel about how the draft is going to play out. I think the first round looks something like 4 quarterbacks taken off the board. So I think you're going to get Caleb Williams. I think you're going to get Jaden Daniels probably back-to-back at 1 and 2. And then from there, there's some quarterback needy teams in the top, 15, 20 picks, and teams that we hear rumblings about that are talking about trading up. And as everybody knows, this is smokescreen season in the NFL. So you won't know true intentions until draft night for the most part. At least that's from personal experience. But, I see Caleb and Jaden probably going 1 and 2 with Drake Maye probably really close to being drafted up there somewhere as well. I think a team is going to, reach up and go and grab him just because the quarterback position in the NFL is so needy. And there's guys here on this list, 4 or 5 guys that fill your quarterback needy, list of helping playing right now. Because anybody that drafts a quarterback here in the first round in these first 22 picks, first 25 picks, first 32 picks, first round picks, I think are looking for a guy who's ultimately going to be the franchise game changer when they're investing that much money into him.
But what don't you like about some of the quarterbacks?
I don't think there's a lot of negatives on any of them. I think it's all about fit, right? I think it's all about, we know Caleb Williams is probably going to go to the Bears. He fits great there. I think the Bears are a very, quarterback away from being a lot better team than they were last year. I think Washington with their coaching staff is in a very immediate position for a turnaround. I think them taking a quarterback and plugging them in there. So individually as the guys, what do I not like about any of them? I think 1 through 4 or 5 from Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake Maye, and Michael Penix Jr. I think between those 4 guys, and then you add J.J. McCarthy, I think for those 4 or 5 guys, you're getting starting caliber type of young, good rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. So there's not a lot to hate from this list of QBs.
But there is something you do dislike because you have Penix's too. So like, what about it? Like, why do you like it better than Daniels?
I think it's. I don't think it's
a
negative. I think it's my list, right? I think it's who I like more than the others. I don't think Jaden Daniels throws the football as well as Michael Penix Jr. does at this current point.
I agree with that.
I don't think Jaden throws. I think his running ability and as a whole, potential wise, Jaden Daniels is going to grow into something great when he gets with a coach and gets into the NFL setting. Drake Maye, I think, is a guy who needs to be in structure and needs to be in a good team like Minnesota, like certain places to be able to really flourish and what makes him good. I think he needs to get with an offensive mind like Kevin O'Connell to get to who he needs to be as a player. That's what I see as a fit from college quarterback to NFL. And I think J.J. McCarthy, another example. What I don't like about him is his fit has to be so perfect for him to come in. You can't drop him in at every single team and have him go and flourish. It's a lot like me where I end up going to Cleveland and I get with Shanahan and it doesn't really work out. Is it the right fit? You don't know. But I think from my perspective of where I sit, a couple of these guys at the bottom, from Drake Maye to J.J. McCarthy to even Jaden Daniels a little bit, they're going to need the right fit and they're going to need the right mesh. I think you could throw Caleb in anywhere to any of the 32 teams in the NFL and he's going to be successful. I don't feel that way about anybody else in this class.
I mean, that's great. I mean, that's exactly sort of the thinking that I don't think a lot of people are applying to this. They're only sort of going with the rundown and saying any one of these guys, especially a Jaden Daniels, especially a Drake Maye, can fit in anywhere, whether we're talking about Washington, we're talking about New England. You mentioned fit. You have a lot of experience with fit. You have a lot of experience with owning responsibility for why it didn't work, but also the challenges of being in Cleveland. When you look at what's on the board right now, you see the players. Take people behind the scenes of like, what do these guys want to be looking for to try to figure out where they might fit in, where they might be comfortable? Because when you're going in as a 21, 22-year-old kid, it's not just about how am I going to play as a quarterback?
Yeah, it's one of those things like, do you know? Those guys are sitting there in a very floating type of position right now. This part of the draft phase is the most like uncertain certainty that you can probably ever have in your life, right? For me, sitting there at this point in time, I had a very high inclination that I would be a first-round draft pick. It was a want, it was a need, it was a desire at that point in time because I felt like it's what you had to do. You had to be a first-round pick. You had to go be the face of the franchise, and that's where I was at in my time. But in reality, I think these guys are sitting here in an uncertain situation of they don't know what's going on. You know, outside of Caleb in this draft, I would highly doubt or Jaden maybe, or Drake. Like a couple of these guys, if 1 and 2 is already set in stone, the majority of the guys in this class are going to have no idea where they fall. So let's just use Michael Penix as an example. You know, for him, he's sitting here probably hoping to get into a similar situation that he was in Washington. You know, good solid foundation, a good franchise, doesn't mind playing in the cold, really can be anywhere. You can plug and play him in any kind of weather, any kind of stadium, anywhere. And I think he's going to flourish. So like, a New England with a good structure and like, an organization that has a lot of history and cold weather. It doesn't bother them. They need a
What
quarterback.
about Vegas? Vegas is favorite to land Penix right now.
Yeah, I would love Vegas for him as well. I think the favorites and where the odds are, the majority of the time, like I saw Caleb Williams odds, it's minus 40,000 or whatever to go.
Yeah, that's extreme.
That's happening now. As you look at the odds, you're kind of going to tell for the most part, who's going to go where. If the odds are high on Penix and Vegas, that just means somebody else is probably going to have to trade up to try and come and get him. Is what I would think looking at that from my perspective, because I know in my draft, 23 was the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Browns traded up to 22 to jump in front of them, or I think I would have ended up in Arrowhead.
Do you ever think about that? Do you think about the different scenarios and what might have been and how you would have managed that?
Yeah, how can you not? I mean, as you sit here today and know that your NFL career didn't work out, wouldn't it be nice to fantasize and think about going somewhere else to be able to maybe have a fresh start or something different, or if it worked out? And I don't play that game as much with myself anymore as I used to in the past. I think that's a lot of what I've been doing for the last 8 years. But fit does matter, and where you go and a coach believing in you. Somebody has to believe in one of these guys and believe in it the way that they may not even believe in themselves. And that's where I ran into some trouble is, I had people believing in me, but when it comes down to it, if you're not doing the work yourself to get to where you need to go individually as a person, you're still going to have your struggles no matter how much belief is in that quarterback room. And that's from my experience.
Well, yeah, you had this great interview with Shannon Sharp where you talked about the experience in Cleveland that you just sort of brought up and the challenge of having that confidence. And I think it was a defensive coordinator said something about you'd be a great football player if you got your head out of your ass. And then that was immediately sort of a trigger that was really challenging for you. What do you remember about that? Why do you think it had such an impact?
I think for me, I was at a place in my life where my game was struggling and I didn't have the confidence in myself on the football field that I normally had in the past. And when you lose that confidence in yourself, you start to question whether you can make that throw. And the NFL is not a place for you to drop back 5 steps and be like sitting back there going, can I make this? Can I make this throw? Can I really step into this and get it to where I need to be? And when your confidence is, not there and you're taking steps back in a game and you're dropping and thinking about this or thinking about that, football is not a game that you can think and play. You need to go out and have your work done, pre-prepped and pre-ready to go, to where when Sundays come around, you just do. You don't think.
I'm curious when you started digging in and looking at football again from the perspective you are now, where you can analyze it, where you can be sort of detached when you're not thinking about, oh, that could have been me kind of stuff, but more as someone who has the expertise and can relay the information.
Yeah, I think for me, I had to fall out of love with the game for a little bit. So for 2 years, when I got done playing, I wanted nothing to do with football or I didn't want to watch. I didn't want to see any of it. And it kind of made me sick to even have to walk by TVs on Saturdays and Sundays and have to see a game of football being played. And slowly through life and just, time passing by, I got back to a place where I could watch it and have some enjoyment about seeing the beauty of the game of football and look at it from a perspective of not in a selfish lens. Look at it as football does good for the world. Football does good for people, a fan base. It's more than just the players. There's so much tied into the game of football that sometimes when you're playing, you don't necessarily see. And when you're out of it, you definitely see through a different lens how much goes in to just showing up to a game on Sunday, from the staff to the fans to all of it that goes in. When you become a spectator and you're not a player, you really get another chance to see, and it makes you feel some kind of way.
Sam, did you want to jump in? Because I have one more question I want to ask him. But you
I
go
think Johnny touched on it a little bit, but I think he's also, again, fit is very important, what he's talking about. But I think Johnny is a great temperament of, you are probably one of the more gifted athletes ever to play football. I think anyone that's ever watched college football that, grew up enjoying the game and loves the game, you're a unicorn. Like you're a player that there hasn't really been one since you came to the league, and before you, I really can't think of a guy that came into the league. But I think you're also the proof of talent only gets you so far, right? Like I can't imagine the feeling you had when you first got the NFL of you're looking up. I mean, Peyton Manning is one of that says what I'm about to say here is that he knew how good he was. He remember when he got to the league, it was like looking up this giant mountain. And the guy was like, you got to work every day to walk up to that top of that mountain while 300-pound dudes are trying to beat the crap out of you and kill you while you're trying to climb up there. So you know what it takes. And I think you're a testament of, you know, you're very open about it, but it's like it's incredible how many people get washed out because of getting overwhelmed by that amount of pressure to succeed that way and the amount of work ahead of you. Did you feel that overwhelmingness when you got into the league of like, holy shit, I can't just party and not watch film. Like, I got to put in a shit ton of work here.
I would say it didn't set into me until after a year. You know, I was so ingrained and had so many things going right for me throughout my whole life that I got
You're
to
that
the
good.
NFL.
Yeah, you're that
I got
good.
to the NFL without any hiccups, you know, like did I have a couple like issues in college with off the field or this and that? Sure. But as far as a football player, you know, I got all the way to the biggest stage in the world based off pure athletic talent. And like, yeah, hard work was a little bit mixed in there, but it was definitely always more play than work for me at that point in time. So for me, it took a year to set in and finally be like, oh shit, like I'm not doing what the rest of the people in this league are doing. You know, I'm not like step by step incrementally climbing up that mountain. I'm sitting at the bottom going, is somebody going to take me to the top of this thing or what are we doing? And that was like my mindset that I had then. And then after my first year in the league and it didn't go the way I wanted it to, and it sat wrong with me, that I worked harder the second year and then the situation didn't work itself out. So I think, you know, a lot of these guys are sitting here right now and they don't necessarily know the work. They may think they know the work that they have in front of them. But other than that, you just really hope that these guys have the love of the game instilled all the way into them to where they live it, they breathe it, and they have that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady kind of mindset in them. Because without that mindset, I don't care how gifted you are athletically, you won't make it unless you're a grinder in the NFL. And they get weeded out every single day. I mean, there's talented guys. I'm a laundry list. You know, I'm one of many and a long line of people who haven't reached their full potential in the NFL. Call it a bust, call it what you want, whatever it may be. It's a hard game. It's a man's game and one you have to work at every day. And if you don't, you get weeded out. The NFL is not for long. And it means that in every sense of the word. The average, you know, people play in this league is 3.5 years. Like that is really, truly what the average is. If you make it and play 4 years, you're above average. I made it 2. So I'm below average. And that was what my career was in a sense. And, you know, to have a long career, whether it's a starter, a backup, a third string, any of it really comes with the hard work because there's only 32 spots and there's only 64 first and, you know, the backup quarterbacks in the NFL. So you're one of 64 in the entire planet. And then there's a couple guys scattered around. But really, you're fighting for one of 64, and that's what your fight is every day. If you don't have your mindset around that and based in that, you're going to struggle.
So when you were at A&M, especially your freshman year, obviously, you guys kind of came out of nowhere. And as sort of always happens, bettors see ahead of the curve. And so professional bettors were just making bank on A&M games your freshman year. How do you get treated in the years after that? Even to be like those first couple of years when you're going to Vegas and you're Johnny Football and you've been making professional bettors 6 figures, 7 figures over the course of a year.
Yeah, I run into people probably every single week, whether it's professional bettors or people. Every single week, one of my conversations is somebody comes up and taps me on the shoulder and goes, I made so much money off of you gambling in college. Thank you. I've always wanted to meet you. And I really do truly hear that every week of my life. It's hilarious. So, you know, we were underdogs in a lot of those games at Texas A&M, 15.5-point underdogs at Alabama. Like as we climbed up and came out of nowhere, if you rode our 11-2 season that year, I bet we almost covered probably every single game in there that first year. Now, next year, you know, we probably had a couple heartbreaks in there being top 5 in the country, and it might have given a little bit of money back. But I know that first year, that freshman year in Kyle Field and in College Station, people were making some money on some money lines throughout there. I know that.
Well, I know you're looking at one of them and it wasn't me.
Yeah. I was gonna say, don't feel too bad, Johnny. The difference between pros and regular people is we ride the wave, and then we know when to get off when the public stays on the wave. So,
Yeah.
no, don't worry, brother. We played both sides, so we love you in every way you can imagine. No doubt.
Appreciate you, brother. That's much love.
When you're thinking about how much do you actually bet now? I know we talked about this. When you look at college, especially college football, where I feel like you've got a real advantage in how you think about the game, how much are you actually betting on it?
I had a really good sweat last night. I bet the freaking Oklahoma City money line last night and really got a real good
Wow.
sweat out of that because I was laying a lot of juice and that came down to a testy little shy bucket there at the end to get me over the hump. But I took the Pelicans in the first round against the Kings, then I had to fade them last night in game one. So probably would have been an easier bet to just take the +8. But I'm gambling. I'm out here, looking and getting locked in a little bit. NBA playoff time. I'm definitely more of a college football bettor. So, once training camp comes around a little bit, I start to do a little research. There's always a lot of value in college football teams and early in the season. If you can pick right and you can get on these right teams that are a little undervalued, usually it's teams that are lingering around the 11 to 25 ranked in the AP poll. If you're in that window, your spreads are going to be a little bit different and you're going to come out. And if your team is good from the year before and it transitions over, you can usually find some value early on in college football season and ride those teams for the first 3 or 4 games until they get into their bigger games because there's blowouts on the schedule in college football. And I love nothing more than easy covers and no sweats.
Well, brother, if you're betting NBA playoffs, money line, and Pels in the first round, dude, that's legit gambling right there. That's
Gambling.
not messing around.
No, I still got a little bit of I've lived my life by the gamble. If I'm playing golf in Scottsdale in my daily life and I'm playing golf 3 or 4 days a week, you're not stepping on the course with me for under, $200, $300, $400, $500. That's just what we're going to do. So it translates into the basketball stuff and the football. I mean, betting's here and it's here to stay. And I live in a state like Arizona where it's very easily accessible. And, I love it. Always have, always will.
Where are you on the draft right now? So one of the bigger bets that a lot of people are talking about, over 4.5 quarterbacks in the first round. Do you have a position on that right now?
That's a really good line. I think it's going to come down to how quick they come off. So if you get that line hits, it has a better chance. Really, another way to look at it is 2.5 over the last 30 picks. And that's another kind of way to look at it because I believe 1 and 2 are already locked in with quarterbacks. My class was a year that I thought a lot of quarterbacks would come off the board, and then we really only had 2 or 3 in the first. I think Teddy ended up going with the last pick of the first, so we had 3, but it was another 4.5 type of line like that. And I remember like it was yesterday. So if I had to bet on this, I would probably take the over on 4.5 going in the first round. It's really right on the button. I think it could be 4, 5 wouldn't surprise me, but I think that half a point's going to be a lot.
Simon.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a scary bet because it felt easier a month ago when we talked about it, just because it felt like the Bo Nix thing was going to happen, right? Him or Penix, somebody was going with that 15 pick or 14 to Denver. I mean, Denver's been kind of quiet about it. Now no one knows, is Denver the team that's going to sneakily move up to that Patriots position or the number 4 pick? And they're going to be the ones that take Drake May or JJ because everyone just penciled in the Vikings. So to me, I believe there's going to be 5 in the first. Not even that. I don't even think Bo Nix is worthy of a first round pick, but all it takes is one team to fall in love with him. But I've stand by what Johnny talked about Penix. It's like Penix has answered the questions. There were so many questions that he shouldn't be a first round pick. And I think he's earned the right. He's moved up from a second round pick to a first round pick to a lot of people I've spoken to. So to me, the -200, -250, the odds, or whatever it is now for the over 4.5 quarterbacks, I think it's a fair number just because when the draft comes, teams try to make the move. I mean, last year, the bet didn't come through, but the Titans were trying to move back in to get a quarterback in the first round. Teams just wouldn't trade with them. So we know that teams do try to make this move. So it's all about what other teams want to do. So This felt like a slam dunk. It's going to be a sweat now to me, right? If whatever Denver does at that pick 14, 15, now it becomes a sweat because we need to hope for a team to trade back in. And other teams can just scumbag and sandbag teams being like, no, we're not letting you trade back in unless you give us a crazy offer. So I still like the bet, but it's definitely not as cut clear as it was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think Jaden Daniels, Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, and Penix all deserve probably to go in the first round.
Yeah.
Where's your fifth? Is it JJ McCarthy? Does he guarantee that he's going to go in the first round? I don't know about that. I wouldn't like putting my money on that he does for sure. And then Bo Nix as well. How do you get to 5 is really the question when you're talking about that bet, because I would feel really comfortable at 4. How do you get over the hook is the real question.
Well, if you're the Vikings, are you trading up to get JJ McCarthy? You got a lot of assets, right? Can you package something and get yourself into a quarterback that you truly believe in? You have not been as high on JJ McCarthy. A lot of people are starting to talk about JJ McCarthy. All of a sudden, the question on SportsCenter or Get Up this morning is, does JJ McCarthy go top 5? Which to me seems insane, right? You know, Johnny, you just talked about sometimes the odds are reflective. As we've been on this podcast, Jaden Daniels is now, I think, minus 300 to go number 2 to Washington. So let's say it is Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Those are your 1 and 2. Is somebody trading up to get JJ McCarthy? And is it the Vikings? And would you do it? 3 questions in 1.
Is somebody trading up? I think somebody trades up for a quarterback. I don't know necessarily if JJ McCarthy is going to be the 3rd one off the board. I would be very, very surprised if that was the case. There's a lot of other talent out there. I think he's, like I said, probably the 5th best quarterback in this class. But all it takes is somebody for you to fall in love with the way you are in the building, the way you are in meetings, the way you are in your workout. That's the thing that we on this side of things don't get a chance to see. We have no idea if JJ McCarthy went into his workout with the Raiders and absolutely crushed it so much that whoever's making that pick in Oakland wants him, or in Las Vegas wants him. So that's what it comes down to here right now. That's the thing that we don't know about. For all we know, you know, in the way that this NFL system works, they have for an idea, you know, what's going to happen in this first round of the draft. Like there's some ebb and flow to it and there's some craziness, but for the most part, these GMs and these coaches know where they want to go. They know where their needs are. They know where their fits are, and they know who their guys are. They only get 1. Some teams get 2 picks in the first, but most of the time it's 1, and it's a game-changing pick where GM's livelihoods are on the line, or head coaches' livelihoods are on the line. Whoever makes these picks behind the scenes, if you mess it up, you will not be there anymore. And that's the way that this business is. So if there's a team that needs a quarterback and they pick the wrong quarterback, heads will roll. And that's the nature of this game.
You know, I was just thinking, I want to go back to the college for a second. I mean, we saw in the documentary sort of there was access to money for you when you were in college. Have you thought about how much money you would make as Johnny Manziel, Heisman Trophy winner as a freshman in college right now with NIL? Have you done that math?
No, I've never really done the math because I don't think I need as much. Like the question, like how much would you, to me at this point is like, I have enough, you know, I have enough doing what I'm doing right now to be fulfilled and be happy. And sometimes in life, wanting more, needing more is a mindset that's got me into a little bit of trouble, I think, at times. And right now, being content and being happy and having everything that I could potentially or possibly ever really need is fulfillment enough in itself for me.
There you go, Johnny. Stop living in the past. My man is in the present.
Well, it's not the wrong answer. It's a really good answer.
No, it's the right answer.
It's a really healthy answer.
Yeah.
I had a buddy the other day. I was complaining about something stupid, and he's like, "You know what? You're so fucking greedy. Like, like it couldn't be going better for you. And you're fucking whining about that extra 0.5%. Like,
Yep.
Are you fucking kidding me?" So I appreciate the mindset. Meanwhile, I don't know, Caleb Williams was making $4 to $5 million a year you
Caleb
know?
Williams deserve it. You know,
Right.
he got in an era where you could go capitalize off your name, image, and likeness. And for him, that looks like driving around the Hollywood Hills in a penthouse apartment with his Heisman Trophy overlooking, the beautiful West Coast, and driving around in probably a Porsche and whipping it through the hills and doing whatever he pleases. So, to each his own on the lifestyle part. I know right now I'm looking around in Arizona and I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at and feeling like I have enough. So, hopefully we can keep continuing to do some stuff on Action Network and we'll be right in the mix forever.
I was gonna say, Caleb Williams, does he have a song called Draft J? Who at the very beginning of the Drake song, his name's dropped? No, he does not.
We still got the Drake friendship. We still got
Yeah.
some good allies out there. So I think I got more relationships out of my rise to fame than I did monetary values. But got paid in the end a little bit here and there. But the friendships are forever for sure. The
And it's
memories
funny
too.
looking back too. Like you read these NIL deals. I think a Texas quarterback, one of their deals is they get a private jet. It's like, damn, Johnny had that before it was even a deal. My man was already taking the PGA before he even had.
Yeah, now I'm working on that with A&M. I need A&M to go ahead and send me a plane everywhere I need to go.
But what's interesting? The Kyle Brandt from NFL Network had this great segment that he did on Good Morning Football, where early in the process, or maybe it was sometime, at the end of last season, people were asking questions about Caleb Williams' character. And it turns out it was all bullshit. And he's everything that everyone thought he was going to be, at least from the reports, right? And his comment was, are you kidding me that you're a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback oh, you know what it was? It was people were criticizing him because he painted his fingernails pink.
Yeah.
And Kyle Brandt was like, are you kidding me? You're a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in LA, in one of the most glamorous cities in the world. You're one of the most recognizable athletes in the city. You are in the NIL era. And the thing people are going after you for
is a joke.
Is you're painting your nails?
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. The fact that fans and people and pundits think that they can come into somebody's life like that and dictate how they're going to live or what they want them to be is asinine, like in every sense of the word. Like, let the kid who is genuinely a 22, 23-year-old kid enjoy his life. He's the guy in the mix, going to be the number one pick, going to be a future, star in the NFL. Like, if he wants to paint his nails, let him paint his freaking nails. If he wants to do or drive or wear whatever he wants to do, that's his right and his obligation to be able to do that. So, people are just mad. People are just jealous, and people will point out any single thing they can to try and bring you down. And that's what's happening with Caleb Williams, because if you look at him and you judge him based on his football characteristics, his running, his throwing, his jumping, his vision, his football IQ, his film, ID, everything that he's done that you see from my perspective, it's a joke that they have nothing else to rip on him about. So they come at him for his fingers. Nuts.
All right, I got two more questions for you, Simon. I don't know if you have any other questions right now. I got two more. One, as a Chicago Bears fan, you said in some of the franchise mode videos, how will the Chicago Bears not kill Caleb Williams as a quarterback prospect the way they have killed every other quarterback prospect, from Jim McMahon to Cade McNown to Rex Grossman to Mitch Trubisky? Every single prospect who comes through that building fails. How do the Bears not
Mitch
let
Trubisky's a double doink away from getting to a really big stage for Chicago quarterbacks, as big as it comes over time. And I think right now where the Bears are, you have to have trust in who you put in your head coach. Who is running the ship? Who's riding the ship? Is it the owners? Is it this? Whoever's running this ship in Chicago has to get it right this time. And if they don't, once again, heads will roll and they'll start over. And this continuous evolution of going nowhere and finishing in the middle of the pack will continue. So hopefully their leadership and who they have there will mold Caleb Williams into the quarterback that he needs to be. And that comes with making sure they're disciplined, staying on top of him, making sure he's growing and progressing as this is a $30 million investment we're talking about here. This isn't a $5 million free agent guy you bring in on a flyer. This is 5 years and 30 million, and at least bare minimum 3 years of your time, with a lot of capital and a lot of trading Justin Fields to get him out of there. Like, now here's your next guy, and it better be the guy, because a lot has rode on this decision. Justin Fields, people were still very on the fence about, and I think they still are, about who he is as a quarterback. But there's a lot of people in Chicago, I bet, if Caleb Williams doesn't work out, they're going to be screaming and saying a lot of things about Justin Fields and what was up with that whole situation. So they've made their decision on that. Now they're going to make their decision here, and it's about how they groom him and how they allow him to be his best self. And if they allow him to be his best self, they'll flourish. And if they don't, they'll struggle. And you'll see it through Caleb's body language through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. You'll know how things are going in Chicago just based off how media reports are.
All right, brother. Before we get out of here, Simon, did you want to ask something?
No, I was just going to piggyback off what he's talking about, that just the fact that I just can't see Williams being a miss. Like, the Bears, not that they're getting a layup here, but like they're a bad franchise. I think we all can agree in many ways. But what they're great at is they're great at staying consistent. They're always consistent, right? No matter what, this team is never usually the worst team in the league, right? It took a miracle for them to even have the number 1 pick a couple of years ago. And he's literally stepping into a team that I believe had 7 wins last year, Williams. So just picking back on what you said, like, if we're back here next year all talking and he broke a Bears record / curse of 4,000 yards, I as much as I want to be shocked by it, I wouldn't be, just because that's the expectations are that high for Williams. And that's the amount of talent they have right now, where if they do get, Joe Alt here in the first round with the 10th pick, now they have a good offensive line with a guy they took last year in the first round. It's like they have 2 stud receivers. It's all there for Williams here. So Williams is about to be in the same situation that Trevor Lawrence is in. Trevor Lawrence, he is going to start hearing a ton of noise especially going into this upcoming season. So just the comps between them is there, where it's like Andrew Luck, most guys had him grade out of 100 as a 99. Most people had Trevor Lawrence graded as a 98, 99. Caleb Williams is graded at a 98. So I do agree with the Giants saying here, fit is important. It fit what he said earlier will not matter with Caleb. Caleb can play on all 32 teams, and he should at some point pan out. He's that gifted. So yeah, Chad, my thing to you is just, you've hit the jackpot. Like, I just can't get over
how the course. Stay the course.
Stay the course. Exactly.
All right, so let me ask you, Johnny, let me ask you this. And Simon, you and I are going to dig deeper on this on Thursday. So I want to ask Johnny this question.
Yeah.
Give me your first round quarterbacks taken and the teams that will take them. Assume there's no more trades. Assume this is the order. Who's going where from a quarterback perspective in the first round?
I think you go Caleb Chicago and you go Jaden to Washington. That's the first 2 that go right away. I would really think, based on what we're hearing, things like that, I think Drake Maye would end up in Minnesota. And then I could see Penix going to the Raiders. I could see him going to New England. And you just kind of look at some of these places. New England's at 3. Do they stay there? If they think he's going to be there, they trade back. So, I could see him going there. I don't know what the Giants are going to do. That's a really big question mark of what's going on right now. Do they believe in Daniel Jones? Do they want to try and bring competition in? Are they willing to put the 6th pick of the draft on it? If they do, they better be right, because I know there's fans in New York that are tired of being mediocre as well. So I would go Caleb to Chicago, Jaden to Washington, Penix to, I like him in New England. Love him in New England. And then let's go JJ McCarthy in Denver, Drake Maye in Minnesota. And I think looking at the tail end of the draft, you could fit Bo Nix, somebody in, maybe trading back up to get a quarterback after picking another skill player. And I think that could round out, your top 5 or 6, and that's how 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. But you'll know.
You heard it here.
You'll know if 1 and 2 go quarterback, it's going to be a quarterback heavy draft class, and you're going to see a lot of trades. You're going to see a lot of movement. And, I think some of these teams are content with where their second round picks are to maybe go get that offensive lineman, maybe go get that receiver, maybe go get a Marvin Harrison Jr., and then come back in with another pick and take one of these quarterbacks late in the first round. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever.
All right. Johnny Manziel is saying 6 quarterbacks in the first round. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by North Carolina's newest sportsbook, Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible super boosts. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Catch the next episode of The Favorites live on the Action Network YouTube page this Thursday. And if you're looking for even more Johnny Manziel content, visit the Action Network YouTube page and all of our socials for Franchise Mode, where Johnny breaks down the quarterback class of the NFL draft. Download us from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until Thursday, love you.